Well, you start at the beginning. You start by starting. That sounds a little nonsensical, but if you think about it, that's the truth of it. You just got to get going, right? And more often than not, it's going to be a little tough at first, like starting anything new or maybe getting back into it after some years. I've had periods in my life where I didn't draw for years, or I only drew when there was something I had to do, a project or something I was trying to help with. But for myself, I wasn't developing. And when I got back into it, you're rusty, you're not used to drawing on a regular schedule or just kind of using that muscle in your brain. So I would recommend for anybody trying to get back into it or just trying to get started from the beginning is to start wherever you are today, wherever you feel like, just get going. I know there's a writing exercise where they say, even if you don't know what to say, just start writing your stream of consciousness, because getting some words on the page is a lot more helpful than having a big blank page staring back at you. And they say you can't steer a parked car, right? So you got to be in motion to be going right or left, or to make any kind of adjustments to your course. You actually have to be driving. So I would say start today. Get a small sketch pad, start carrying it with you when you go places. And instead of checking your phone or doing something that isn't really going to help you, start sketching. Just sketch what you see, or sketch what's in your imagination, or work on that idea that you've been kicking around. They say it takes about 10,000 hours to get proficient at any new thing. That's a big ask. That's a nice chunk of time, especially when we only get roughly around 700,000 hours in our lifetime. 698,880, I guess, if you live to be 80 years old and calculate all the hours we get. There are roughly about 8,736 hours in a year. And, obviously we're busy people. We got a lot to do. It's not like we can spend all our time doing what we want to do. Got life to live. I get it. So build in some time for yourself. Self-care of all kinds, physically, mentally. I find art and creating and sketching and working on projects and taking on gigs, that these things really keep me healthy mentally and spiritually. That's part of what I do for myself. It's not for everybody. I don't show it. Well, I guess I am showing this to the world now, but typically my sketches are for me and maybe a few other people. I show up with a willing spirit and kind of a sense of fun about things, sense of play. And I see what the muse brings to me. Most of these ideas they are mine, of course, but also when it gets down to it, I'm the conduit, I'm the vessel for these things. I show up like, hey, let's do it, and the ideas come to me. I don't exactly know how that works. It just seems to work. I think having an attitude of gratitude goes a long way with courting the muse and getting good ideas to show up. I think you've heard people talk about having gratitude just when dealing with people, for sure. And that is very, very important, to kind of go in thankfully, gratefully to anything you take on. But there's also something to be said for being grateful for the gifts we've been given, and grateful for access to inspiration, access to ideas. We don't often talk about that, but I'm very, very grateful to be in some sort of connection with inspiration that doesn't seem to dry up. There's a well that I can just go drop the bucket in and pull it out, and there's something. And it's not always what I wanted or what I was looking for, but it's something I can build on. And oftentimes it's completely out of left field and takes me aback. Like, what is this? But in a way, our imagination is this sandbox. It's this open world adventure that we don't know what's out there. And you grab your gear, you get, much like these games that we love to play, or some of us love to play. And you get your sketch pad, your pencils, your gear. You get geared up, ready to go, and then you just set out. Set out down the road, one foot in front of the other, and see where it takes you. And you're going to see things that you didn't expect. You're going to run into situations that maybe feel beyond your capabilities. But I'll be the first one to tell you I believe in you. Embrace it. Life is one big old circus. All life is a stage, as Shakespeare used to say. And so treat all the players, the protagonists, the antagonists, all the characters that show up as you're drawing, as you're creating your worlds, treat them all with respect. And I think the way to do that, at least for me, has been to always honor the muse, always honor the inspiration that shows up by essentially taking it as it is when it comes to me. Unless I'm working a project where I'm being paid, I don't try to enforce my own will too much upon the ideas that show up. I'm more trying to bring them to their fullest potential instead of trying to dictate where they need to go. I'm just trying to usher them into the world fully, if that makes any sense. So these characters show up with their own personality. I'm just trying to enhance that or show that to its fullest capability. Help them be them the best that I can. That way we don't get 100 or 1,000 characters that all look kind of like some reflection of me, which would be boring to me. I want to see a whole world of diverse, interesting, wild, out there, fascinating characters that remind me of people that I've known, remind me of characters that I love from either movies or whatever, any kind of media. I'm trying to infuse the world as I've seen it in my life into different characters. They're all people I've known or people that I love or people that I don't love that have had a strong impact on me. And somewhere in that slurry, I can find all kinds of interesting stuff. And so just having that spirit of adventure and seeing, exploration of your own creativity, of your own imagination can yield some really interesting results. But as soon as I start to try to force things in one direction or another and essentially not look at what the character is, but what I want it to be, I lose touch with that source. The ideas start to get stale. The characters start to stiffen up on me. Their poses start to look all wrong and wonky and just not good. So for me, staying connected means, staying inspired means giving up my idea of what it is, of what it should look like, of what these characters are. When I'm just drawing from the imagination, it is going out on the road. And for anybody who's ever taken a long road trip and maybe had your GPS cut out on you or somehow got lost along the way, if you can give up the stress of not knowing where you're going, there's a kind of fun that happens. Or if you've ever been on an island and gotten lost, it's like you can only go so far in one direction before you hit the ocean. And it's kind of like that in the imagination for me as well, where I throw the map in the glove box and I just head out, generally in the direction I want to go. So that's where the genre comes in. That's where some of the maybe loose ideas about what this subject matter is, time and place, kind of people, that kind of thing. Sure, that's a general direction. I head out in that general direction and unexpected things happen. And at that point, you have a choice. You can either get flustered by the fact that it didn't come out like you wanted it to or you thought it should and try to force it to go this way or that way because that's what's cool or that's what you want. Or you can embrace the fact that this is going different than you expected and let it be what it's going to be. Not all of these things have to have an output or a product in mind. Creativity is its own life form in a way. So I just give it the resources it needs and the space that it needs and the effort that it requires, and I see what happens. Then I have this endless cast of characters I can always draw upon, pun intended, where I can go back through my sketch pads and find people who fall into certain areas that came up created organically. I didn't have to, I should draw this in this time frame and this certain parameters. No, these came up because I really enjoyed drawing them, and they may just so happen to fall within certain guidelines of a project or something I'm looking for. So I've always got this kind of backlog or this catalog of ideas that I can fall back on if I get myself in a situation where I am actually stuck on a project or something that there's a timeline on. And I've done this on professional gigs where there was a ticking clock and I had less time than I expected, and it's because I had all these folders and files laying around and hundreds of hours of work that I could save my butt, get the project done before the deadline every time. And that's just from having a backlog of work and studies and sketches and ideas and worlds, really, that are at your disposal when you need them. My name is Noah. This has been the Big Bad Anime Channel. Thank you so much for joining us. As I said before, we are just getting started here, but I am having a blast. I hope you're having a good day. Do something nice for yourself. This is part 2 of our sketch session. Next up, we're going to be having sketch session 1 part 3. It's been my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great day. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.